All right, I am going to call this meeting of the Mount Ascutney School District Board to order at 6:30 on Monday, October the 7th, 2024. First off, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Just you wanted an executive session, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I was going to know. We are going to do an executive session on contracts. Otherwise, this looks good to me. All right, all good? Excellent. Next, we are going to approve the minutes from September 9th, 2024. Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
All right.
While reading them, I came up with the idea that it might be useful to put the URL into the minutes. So when it's posted on the website, it's really easy for people to then go into the meeting video to watch it, because I like how succinct the minutes are, but there isn't a lot of detail. Rightfully so. It's not a transcript. It's minutes. But if someone wanted to get to more detail, then they would just have to click on that link and go to the video. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. So something we can communicate to our minute taker.
She'll hear it.
All right. Fantastic. Yeah, that's
I'll let her know.
When I do action items and minutes at work, that's exactly what I do too. So that is a good observation. I will accept a motion to approve the minutes from September 9th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion on that? All right, hearing none, I will take a roll call vote, starting with Nancy.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Amy.
Aye.
Elizabeth.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well, so the minutes are approved at 6:33 p.m. Excellent. All right. Next up, we have public comment. And again, I apologize. My computer has just decided to be bizarrely slow. Seems like it's waking up now. It's like an update or something. Okay. So we are moving on to public comment on non-agenda items and announcements for non-agenda items. So public comment is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse, and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed for discussion. Please start by identifying yourself and what town you reside in, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. All right. Any public comment or announcements?
Well, the only public comment I have is I want to make sure that our students here understand that where students are involved, we don't care if you limit it to 3 minutes. We always welcome student involvement in it. So.
Is this part of, are we
It's
going
part
to
of
do
the
this part of the,
but it's the very first part of the administrative report, so whenever you're ready.
well, if there are no public comments, then we can move on to item 5, which is the administrative report. And now you have the floor for as many minutes as you need.
Should I stand?
Yes.
Okay.
Want me to share?
Oh,
This isn't in there. Yeah, come on, right up front.
Okay. You guys should come up here. Can you sit on this?
Sure can.
Okay.
Just try not to look at them.
Yeah. Okay.
You can even sit up if you want.
Let's see.
That's more comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my name is Roxy, and I'm going to be speaking first. I'm from Windsor, and I've been going to Windsor since kindergarten. And today, me and my friends are here to talk about why we want to keep Farm and Wilderness going. In just the 2 days we spent at Farm and Wilderness, we were able to make memories that would last a lifetime. Our favorite parts of the trip were the hours of freedom we got throughout the day, where we could play games with our friends and enjoy the beautiful nature of Timberlake. One of the most memorable parts of the trip was the bonfire we had on Friday night, where we enjoyed eating s'mores, telling ghost stories, playing manhunt, and enjoying time talking with our friends. While at Farm and Wilderness, we were gifted with freedom and free time that we were never able to get at school. One of the great things about Farm and Wilderness was that a lot of us hung out with classmates that we usually don't get to see or hang out with at school. At Farm and Wilderness, we loved, oh, sorry. At Farm and Wilderness, we loved going to the farm and seeing all of the animals that they had there, and helping pick crops, muck the stalls, and prune the raspberry bushes. Another great part of the trip was when we got to go swimming and canoeing in the lake. Although we did lots of things outside, there were also many memories made inside the kitchen when we were helping our chef, Miss Daly, prepare the meals for the middle school. Throughout the day, we had group activities where we hung out with unlikely friends and got to learn new things like survival skills, farm work, and about the lake around Farm and Wilderness. Going to Farm and Wilderness was a great way to start the year and get to know the people in the middle school. Farm and Wilderness was a memorable and enjoyable experience that we will remember for the rest of our lives. Stopping Farm and Wilderness would mean that no other students would get to be able to have this amazing experience, and that's not fair. Tonight we are here to voice the opinion of the middle schoolers, and that opinion is that the Farm and Wilderness field trip should live on.
My name is Lucy Moore, and we just moved here this summer from Virginia. The Farm and Wilderness trip was really fun. We were exposed to a lot of fun things we normally wouldn't do, introduced to people we normally wouldn't hang out with, and taught things about responsibility. I just moved here this summer, and I didn't know anyone. Farm Wilderness helped me get closer to my new friends and made school a lot more fun afterwards. One of my favorite things about the trip was when we went swimming down at the lake. We enjoyed about an hour of fresh, cold water, which felt good since it was so hot that day. We were also able to go canoeing, and we would take turns paddling as we went. I remember when it was my turn to paddle, the only thing I did was splash the other people on my boat. The first time we jumped in the lake was really fun because it felt really cold and we were just pushing each other in. We had tons of fun swimming, and we would race each other from one dock to another.
I'm Thea, and I was from Albert Bridge last year at 6th grade, and then I moved to Windsor, and I met my new friends. And since it was the beginning of the school year, I didn't really know them a lot, but this trip has helped me. So one of my favorite activities is helping Miss Daly with the food in the kitchen. She's our eating teacher, but she was also our chef during the trip. So my friends Lucy, Emily, Roxy, and I were one of the couple kids who helped in the kitchen. I think that helping in the kitchen was fun, and it was one of my most favorite moments during the trip. One of the things we did was chuck corn, which was really fun because we were trying to make songs, and we couldn't really come up with anything, but we tried to make a beat. Another thing is, while I was spending time with my friends while making food, I got to see a much more funner side, including the song things, because I didn't really know that they did that. We I learned about their funner side, and yeah, it was really nice getting to know this other side that I didn't know about them at first. And we also had a chance like with other students to practice working together in the kitchen, and we all worked together to clean up and make food. We were also able to talk to people and to be able to cooperate. At the meals, we got to talk to people that I don't normally sit with or talk with in school, but in the trip I did. Um, During the trip, I got to talk to um, people during meals and do stuff with them and learn more about them in just 2 days. And as a person that struggles talking to people because I am really, really shy, it was that trip was a great time and a great opportunity to try and talk to other people.
I'm Emery. The cabins were also really cool. It was an open space that gave the cabins some air and a lot of sunlight. We were cabin mates with people that we normally don't hang out with. Getting to know other people is always nice. On the trip, we had lots of free time doing whatever we wanted to. During our free time, we had a lot of time getting to know the people in our cabin. We played cards, learned different card games, and did different activities. We had small talk with people we don't know and got a chance to know more about each other. This trip was great because we got to connect and talk to a lot of different people. And because it's also it's easier to become friends with somebody when they're not in school learning about stuff.
For me at Farm and Wilderness, I made some of my best memories on Friday night when we had the campfire. We started the night by making s'mores, and some people took the time and they just roasted their marshmallows and they were nice and golden brown. And some people just took their sticks and shoved them in the fire. And when they pulled them out, the marshmallows were all crunchy and black and burning, but they still tasted good. After it got dark, a group of us got together, and because of all the trees and the brush, we were able to play a really awesome game of manhunt. Later that night, we started to get tired, and so we just kind of enjoyed sitting around the campfire. And I like telling ghost stories, and I told some weird ones about, carrot monsters and what the McDonald's chicken nuggets are really made out of. Spoiler alert, it's kids. While some people enjoyed running around and playing games, others enjoyed talking by the campfire with their friends, or they relaxed in their cabins. That night, I enjoyed playing games and talking with people I don't usually get to see. That night was full of many laughs and memories, no matter where you were, who you were with, and what you were doing.
What the heck? um, the main meeting place where we ate our food, talked as a group, and that's where we went to make our plans, was the Cam's Lodge. Cam's Lodge is a big open air wood building where we made our plans for the day. The lodge is just another place where some fun memories were made. In the lodge, people enjoyed playing cards, having pull-up contests, and dancing, laughing, and in general, just making memories. Another one of the main meeting up spots was the bell clearing. The bell was a big round metal piece of a locomotive that rings throughout Timberlake when hit. The bell was one of the coolest parts of the camp. It was big that you can lay on it, and when it rang, it no matter where you were in camp. What's cool about the bell is that depending on how many times you rung, you know where you needed to be and when. Sadly, this year I was not one of the lucky ones who got to ring the bell, but I am crossing my fingers for the next year. I really wanted to do that. I didn't get a chance to talk to Mr. Chris Lord to ring the bell, but I want to. Farming Wilderness is full of so many cool and interesting things, and I hope that I will get to see them again next year.
Another one of the activities that I personally enjoyed the best was going to the farm. It was really nice to see all the different animals and helping with the chores. My favorite part of the time we went to the farm was when we all had a chance to pet the animal. There were so many cool and interesting animals that we got to see and learn new things about that I would never have known if we hadn't gone on this trip. One of the animals we saw was one of the softest and most adorable bunnies that I've ever seen. And when they took one out and let us pet it, I was really excited. While we were on the farm, we also had the chance to work on stuff that most people might never have done before, like pruning raspberry bushes, picking vegetables, and shoveling a mix of hay and manure. I've never done anything like pruning or shoveling manure. It was completely new to me, and while I was helping, I realized that living on a farm is not that easy. It gives you a challenge that you will have to face. This trip has given me tons of new, beautiful memories, and going to the farm was one of the best ones.
Farmer Wilderness started off our school year with a bang. There are so many fun activities for us to do and so much for us to learn. And since we weren't allowed to have our phones, we had a lot of time talking and enjoying nature. On this trip, we had a chance to unwind, to stay away from schoolwork and just enjoy ourselves in the company of our friends. We learned a lot about making responsible decisions, cleaning up after ourselves, and helping others. This trip was very memorable, and we had a lot of fun and a lot of learning experiences. Farmer Wilderness was a really great learning experience for everyone who went and will be for everyone who continues. Farmer Wilderness was so much fun, and after only 2 days of being there, I'm already excited to go again next year.
Questions. Okay,
We lost
briefly,
our screen.
could you explain to us, just because we're just school board members, what is the farming wilderness
Oh, you
trip?
guys don't know what it is?
No.
What? Oh.
I mean, I know where it is. I know the farm.
Yeah.
I actually built fence there 50 years ago. But when does it take place?
So I think it's the third week of September. We leave on Thursday, quite early in the morning. And this year we had like a U-Haul truck. So we put like our overnight bags in there and our sleeping bags. And we drive. It's like 45 an hour. I don't know. But so Farm and Wilderness, it's like this camp that's kind of in a valley. It's not close to anything. We're not allowed to have electronics. There's like really not electricity. Like none of the cabins had lights or anything like that. So we all had like our flashlights and our headlamps. And it's a summer camp, and it's got cabins and a farm, and kids go there in the summer and they can stay for anywhere from like 2 weeks to, the whole summer. And Mr. Lord went there a lot as a kid, and so we go for Thursday in the day, and then we stay Thursday, and then we leave on Friday, and we get back at like 2:35 when school ends. And so Farm and Wilderness is just a summer camp that we are lucky enough to be able to use for a school field trip. And it's got like a kitchen and cabins and kaibos, which are like weird bathrooms.
Now, my perception of your presentation is that, and I could be wrong, there seems to be some sort of threat to the future of going there?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what motivated you to come talk to the school board?
Mm-hmm.
So could you explain the threat, what sort of motivated you to do this?
Yeah.
So I think what Mr. Lord told us is that some people think that it's more dangerous to go because like at night you can like trip and fall and like get hurt. But just one like point is like if parents think that it's dangerous, then they can just keep their kid home instead of making everyone else stay home. And like I think that some people just think it's too dangerous for kids to go if they are not always a teacher supervision on them.
Yeah, because our teachers, they were just like, every year going to Farm and Wilderness just gets a little bit harder. And so any students that would like to come and talk to the board about why they like Farm and Wilderness should. So that's what we did.
Okay.
I see Elizabeth, you have your hand up?
Thank you. I have a couple of little questions. One is, were the kids from Albert, was this grade 6 through 8 or 7 and 8?
7th and 8th. So 6th grade does come and they get to stay during the day, but only 7th and 8th stay overnight.
Okay. Were the kids from Albert Bridge included in the group that were able to come during the day?
They were last.
They were last year, not this year.
Okay. Why?
Logistics.
Okay. My other question is, what was for each of you, what was the biggest challenge that you were able to overcome, and what did you learn from overcoming the challenge?
I think one of my challenges was since we moved, I have been trying to keep in touch with my friends because one of my friends actually lives in Uzbekistan, and so I'm not able to talk with her because of the time difference. And Fridays is usually the only day that I was able to talk to her, and so I wasn't able to keep in touch with her for another week, which was one challenge for me. Yeah, but I did make more friends. So
I think for me, it was a little hard to kind of like, at the beginning you got there and it still felt a little bit like this is a school field trip. I have to be like, this is still school. But you're there for a little bit and then you just see like the 8th graders who had already come and the way that the teachers are acting. And you kind of just realize that everybody's kind of just relaxed. And then you kind of relax. And so at the beginning I was a little bit like uptight and I was like, but like after a little bit, you kind of just realize like this is a field trip and everyone's just like relaxed and this isn't school and you can just like let your guard down.
Another challenging thing was like not really knowing the camp very well because like it would like I was scared that it was gonna be dark and I would have to go to the bathroom and I wouldn't know where anything was and I would like get lost. But after being there and like especially playing like Manhunt at night where like you really like explore in the dark, it was a lot easier to find it. But like, it was still kind of challenging. Well, with my cabin, there was like a bathroom right behind it. But like it was also hard to communicate with your friends like at night because like I didn't know if some of them were in the kitchen already. And so I kind of just went up there and hoped that they were there.
One of the hard things that I struggle a lot with is talking to people and meeting new friends. Because as I said earlier, I like a lot of times meeting new people and talking to them. But during the trip, I got to make new friends and I overcome my fear of talking to people. And it was really nice. I was really proud of myself because I made new friends. They were already my friends, but I got closer to them.
Thank
Andrew,
you. I'd love to make sure that that the Albert Bridge kids have the option to go next year because it sounds like a really wonderful experience. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for bringing that.
My pleasure.
thanks.
Shall we dismiss ourselves?
You may. You want to
All right.
stay or you had enough?
Would you like 2 more hours of listening to how the school runs? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night. Good to see you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Sure. There's the next, there's one more student presentation. It's a video.
I think this is the second year in a row that we've heard about Farm and Wilderness Camp. If I'm,
Yes.
yeah, so
Yeah.
clearly it's a hit.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing trip. So just click on that, click right in the picture and it should.
In the picture.
Yeah.
Use the
This
force.
one. That one. Use the force. Thank you. I need to request access.
You do?
Uh-oh. Yep.
You want me to just share?
Stop sharing.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Okay. It's a short video. Okay. Forget you gotta go to a different tab. Hold on a second.
It's okay, take your time.
All right.
Is this from your computer or your drive?
I'm gonna drive. That's why it's
That's
slow.
the issue.
Hello, this is Adam from the A's class, and today I am going to be talking about the Tunbridge Fair. So, the scarecrow at the Tunbridge Fair. So, we first made the wood to make the body. We used nylons to hold the hay. We dressed her, we used a pumpkin for the head and put a face on it. We also put her in a chair. We put spiders on her and her fishing pole. When she was done, we gave her a name, and that name was Sheila. Our scarecrow, as you can see, we have lovely Sheila here with her little pond, fishing for spiders. And as you can see, she also has a blue ribbon on her hat. On the right, we have Jaylee, Rose, Thomas, and Drake in front of Sheila taking their picture. And in the middle, you can see Hunter and Alex peeking around the corner. This is something bigger than a bus. The Ferris wheel was bigger than a bus. There were also many barns that were bigger than a bus. You can see the barns in the photo below, along with the Ferris wheel. So if you can see the Ferris wheel, as you can see, that is definitely bigger than a bus. I would love to ride that. The Tunbridge Fair veggies. Our class made an aquarium. We put string on the vegetables. We put eyes on them. We paint the vegetables like fish. As you can see, we also took a picture of another class's artwork, which I find very impressive, especially the deer head. But if you can see on the other side is ours with the blue ribbon and the lovely fish. If you look closely, you could probably see my shark that looks like a dolphin. The merch plus Norse and Chinese dragon rings. Oh gosh. I like the Norse mythology. Thor, Odin, and Loki are quite interesting with their powers. The Norse ring looks very cool because it seems like it's a shield with runes. The dragon ring looks like it would have the power to summon dragons. The reason why I put the rings here is because my project is cool stuff at the Tunbridge Fair. As you can see, you have beautiful rings here that Drake took. That's beautiful. We didn't take them. Tunbridge Fair food. When I was at the fair, I got fried dough. They also had chicken tenders at another stand. They also had a bloomin' onion stand. There was also an ice cream and cotton candy. I even saw steak on a stick. You call that just a meaty kebab, I guess. Older than 1950. I saw muskets, old cars, and old trucks. We also saw some different types of carriages. Some were on wheels and some were on skis. There was also a lot of stuff from the Civil War. That's pretty cool. Animals at the fair. We saw baby goats and sheep. The sheep looked cool. The goats looked sleepy. The sheep had a cool haircut. It looks like a happy sheepy. The goats were cute. They were cute. More animals at the fair. There were baby goats and sheep that I got to pet. We saw cows too. Horses. The horses were for pulling. There's me in that picture. I hate that picture of me so much. Cows. I saw cows with horns. Some of them have little spots, and some have big spots on. Some of them are very moody. We pet the cows. Their weak spots are right under their chin. And you can see Alex in one of the pictures. Oxen, they pull a lot of heavy weight. That they do. That's cool. Vermont USA Words at the Tunbridge Fair. Vermont Beekeepers Association. I am Vermont Strong license plate in the American flag, and the U.S. ticket guy, which I love very much. Let's see what else. Plants. Students saw giant sunflowers. There's another picture of our class. Plants. They saw some pumpkins too. More plants. They also saw some fall flowers. As you can see, more pictures of our lovely class. Even more plants. They also saw some hot peppers. Workers at the fair and people we met along the way. We met some of the people who worked at the fair. When we looked at them, when we looked for them, why did I write me? We had to look for adults with green vests and had to take a few pictures with them. It was super fun. And thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.
Why did he choose 1950? Just like that was more than 100 years ago. Because nothing there is from the 1950s. Everything's way older than
I like
that.
the scavenger
That must
hunt.
seem really
That was
old
great.
to him.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, Tunbridge Fair is so good.
Yeah.
They had a great time.
That's fantastic.
All right, so I must have closed my screen. Here we go. Tracy, I think you
You did it first.
are up.
There we are. It's funny when I think about the things that we've been up to, I can't leave off the fact that we're teaching hard, right? That the teachers are hard at work. So I said, along with the full implementation of our curriculum and programs, our school days have been really filled this month. Some of the logistical things we do and have to do. School photos, some came in today and you would have thought it was Christmas at school. And I did have our first fire drill and the bus evacuation drills with XTA for that. We've completed STAR assessments and other benchmark assessments that the interventionists are using for screening students. We've been over to the ski hill here for boot fittings, getting ready for winter enrichment. Our Thursday leadership assemblies are in full swing. I don't know, Davis, if you made it the last one or can't remember, but every other Thursday, a couple times a month. And the nice thing is they've been taken over by the student lighthouse team. So they're really working on presenting, and that's hard, right? There's a few hundred people sitting there, a couple hundred people there. And so the coordinators are working hard with the student team. We also spent some of Mountain Day reorganizing the library and trying to figure out how to use those spaces in different ways. And then last Friday was Mountain Day. We had 4 different mountains, Mount Peg, Mount Tom, Mount Cardigan, and Bald Mountain, which I've never been to that one. Nothing but great reports. I'm glad we didn't lose anybody. I heard that was last year, right? So I guess that was an update. And then we are looking for next week is open house and our kind of second community dinner. I guess the back to school barbecue might have been the first, but that is what we're getting ready for next week.
So what are some of the other benchmark assessments?
Dibbles, they're using the Dibbles assessment. I don't know if there's a benchmark in CKLA.
There is, but I think at the beginning there is optional because it kind of
Right.
we get the information from STAR that we need.
Yeah.
So, and it's a very long assessment. So
Sometimes we use KLA.
Yeah. All right, Kate is up.
Can you hear
She is-
me?
Yes.
I am trying to keep my slides this year focused on what I presented as our goals for the high school during the budget season, which was experiences, community, and improving math success. So around experiences, this is just what we have planned for the first semester. A lot of these are through flexible pathways, but they're open for all students to join. And the last one is a junior class trip to see the Great Gatsby, because that's what they're reading right now. Our kind of community building events were homecoming, pep rally, bonfire, and we had 3 victories on homecoming weekend, which was a nice surprise. And it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And we were able to rearrange a little bit of swarm responsibilities, and happy that Tammy will begin intervention with students in grades 7 through 9 who are almost meeting the mark. She'll work with the high school students during swarm, and she'll work with the 7th and 8th grade students during their advisory time.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate. And they, I'll just add, we reported last year how we were going to tackle the math scores, and Bridget Burial has been working, started this summer, working with new math teachers, middle school and high school through 10th grade, I think, Kate, is that right? And
Yes.
Bridget just shared the preliminary STAR math scores, and they are improving, which is excellent. We'll bring you that
Awesome.
data next
You're
month.
stealing next month's thunder.
Just giving them a little preview. I'll stop there.
Nothing there.
It's very exciting.
Still rumble in the distance.
Always good news.
Yeah.
All right, so Albert Bridge School, we've, as Tracy mentioned, we've got to do some things. So we've done our Alice lessons in the classroom. Those of you who don't know about those, essentially we've, as a system, been able to better understand through lots of approaches, how we do our options-based drills, which used to be called lockdowns, have shifted significantly to become much more developmentally appropriate and trauma-informed. So we're working on those in our fire drills. We are completing the Fall Star assessment. We've got a couple of stragglers. We also did our boot fitting, same day. You guys
should
did.
just do this together.
I know, right? Our student lighthouse team is taking lead on certain things. They're meeting twice a week with us and developing places to take leadership. They're going to take lead on the mountain day, which is this Friday, where we're all going to be up in the mountain for the first half of the day. Our exploratory time is a time when all of our specialists are actually together and give students choice between options of things that they can explore. So some of the options might be, you can see some sewing machines over there. There's some rugby pictures here. We've got some kids who are working on photography. We've got some other kids who are working on this time when our band meets, our ensemble meets. So just lots of options for kids. We do a 3 through 6 component, then we do a K through 2 component, and we work at it for an hour and a half. So it gives teachers their prep time that day, as well as a 45-minute time for collaborative planning with other teachers that they may want. And so far that's a success. Our goal is to blend that ultimately to become much more integrated, and some of it already is, with the curricula that is in the CKL and the math, science, and social studies stuff, so that children are learning in an interdisciplinary approach, so that by the end of the year, we're pulling in a lot of what they've learned through the year so they can hold on to that in a way that's meaningful. We were able to participate in the Kick Line dance program up at is up in Burlington, which was fantastic. You can see the picture up in the upper corner. Is that right? Right corner. And 3 through 6 went there, and boy, I'll tell you, you know, in our culture, boys don't typically dance. Boys dance. It's amazing. It's really impressive. And I think, as Tracy mentioned, our teachers are constantly trying to engage in systematic approaches to teaching knowledge and information and skills, one-to-one. And this is a kindergarten teacher. Imagine she's got a whole class of 9 other kids out there, and they're all thoroughly engaged too, working together. She doesn't have to work with all of them all at once. So this is really about kids teaching others and that process of engagement. We are coming to the conclusion of our community unit, in which we toured around our community. Recently, the 6th and 5th graders went and distributed thank you cards to like the town hall, the Butcher Pantry, the Grange, for people who have just opened up their buildings, the fire department. And we're going to shift into a harvest. learning. And then our open house is actually this Thursday, and we're doing an open house, not a curriculum night, due to just some shifts in a couple of things. One is, making sure that dinner's not everybody standing in line for a half hour and then sitting down and then getting up and leaving. The other is because we want to make sure that we're supporting teachers being able to kind of navigate what's important for them. They want to show student learning. So we're going to do more of an open house and take a tour, a museum walk of the school. So we're going to give that a try this year. And on the next page, just some pictures of engagement and belonging. Again, in that bottom left corner, okay, look at me. We have a teacher, just, if you look at that, like every kid's engaged. Like they're just glued to it. And I think when we think about how hard that is, I walked in the room, I usually walk in the room like, and feel like, what? Somebody came in the room. But no, they're there. They're engaged in the moment. And then up top, you can see our kick line up in Burlington. And that guy in the red shirt happens to be the same guy who came and did our Circus Schmirkus last year. His name's Rob. And I'll get to that in just a moment. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, the kids are working, they also went to the Tunbridge Fair. They're working on designing different things, so you can see like a Ferris wheel being built there as a collaborative project, and then we are working on finding ways that we sort together. You can see one of our students right around the corner. You'll see those big wings that you can take a picture of too and join our collaboration. And if one more click, you will see engagement and belonging. We have this saying, once an Albert Bridge kid, always an Albert Bridge kid, once an Albert Bridge family, always an Albert Bridge family, once an Albert Bridge teacher, always an Albert Bridge teacher. Like they were so excited to see Rob up in Burlington, this huge group hug. So these opportunities are only available because we are supported incredibly by the community around us. So thank you for that.
Do you want to take a question or do you want me to continue?
Yeah, Elizabeth, you have a question? You have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Jennifer, are you still doing any kind of place-based stuff?
Every day. Yeah, so we still have all of our classrooms, outdoor classrooms are being used, both in terms of engaging in the place we live in. So for example, K-1-2 is doing so our community unit, which is responsive classroom for 6 weeks, is really about building community. So one of the things we do in our community unit is explore community. So place-based is going to the fire station and meeting those people, going to the butcher and pantry, going to our town hall and our Grange. So that's a part of place-based. It's not outside, it's place-based. And then the other component is like, so K-1-2 is doing their community unit, making sense of what community is. So they've read Roxaboxen. And in Roxaboxen, if you've ever read it, it's just building a community. And so the kids, if you go out into their outdoor play areas, right, their outdoor classrooms everyone has a path to the river, and you'll see the Roxaboxens being built. And I was out there with kindergartners the other day, and they were so excited to tell me about how they're making the platforms for the frogs that happen to be there. They're making all these places, the shallow places and deeper places for them to go. And it's just really thoughtful about creating like a sense of habitat and joy in their outdoor learning experience. So it's absolutely central to how we're functioning now. Sometimes we just go outside to read because going outside and reading is still good. So, I mean, it can be anywhere from just being outdoors and doing our traditional learning to learning through the outdoors and expanding that to learning with our community members around us. And our exploratory, for example, like our sewing unit, we've got 4 community members who are coming in to help us learn how to, and the children learn how to do some sewing. So it's all about blending and working kind of those people and the place together in making our learning more real for the kids. So pulling that stuff out of the book and bringing it to life. Thanks for the question.
So you're, rather than having a half position dedicated to it, you are integrating it into the classroom. Is that right?
Ideally, yes. Yep. That's what we're working on, not just classroom. Our specialists are pulling it out in their exploratory time as well. But yes, essentially we're asking teachers to take on that additional load right now with some help and support. And I think We've got a team of teachers that are ready to take on that challenge, and they're certainly rising up to the occasion and exceeding it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, moving right along. I get to talk about how the community supports all of these wonderful, wonderful things with our budget. So this is the end of the fourth quarter summary. It is in the portal, the full document, if you want to look at it. But this is the summary. So the beginning fund balance for which was the end of FY23, beginning of FY24, $448,202.79. Your projected revenue was 13 and change, and your expenditures came in under that, which gives you a difference of $129,924.84. So that's in the black, right? It came in the black.
Love it.
Which is great. As you recall, last year we assigned your fund balance to the FY25 budget, that 434,000 figure. So when you take the beginning fund balance and you add the the difference of 129, and then you subtract the assigned fund balance, you come out with an unassigned fund balance of $137,756.26, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you ended last year. This year, oops, that's a little off. This is just the first quarter. And Larry wanted me to make sure to tell you to please don't be alarmed. Revenues just have not completely come in, so we're in fine shape right now. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so those are the financials, and this is there's some funky things, transitions on my slideshow that I didn't plan. So I wanted to take a minute just to talk about the anti-racism. It's a little bit of a policy review because all of you were there last month when at the SU board meeting when the students and some parents came to talk about an incident that had happened. I shared that night a lot of the work we're doing around the anti-racism policy and procedures, but I wanted to just share a few more things that we are doing in addition to what I shared at that meeting. And how they relate to the policy. So we have scheduled meetings with families most impacted to provide a welcome means of raising concerns, which I just put the correlating policy.
Have they happened or are they happening?
They have happened and they continue to happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want me to?
Do you have a question right now, Elizabeth, or do you want to wait until Christine's done?
I've got a question right now.
Okay.
How have you reached out to? How have you defined families that are most impacted, and how have you reached out to them?
Originally, we reached out to families of students of color, and we emailed and called them. I believe. I'm trying to remember back, Elizabeth. I think Kate might have called them to invite them to a meeting. And then I emailed. Is Kate still here?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still here. So what happened was, like everything else in Windsor, that spreads like wildfire. So then we have a lot of people before even the end of the day when we can go through the steps that we do, which is to name it, to send something out to communities. So before we could even get to that, we had some families reach out to us. And then we also had some kids that were talking about it that were impacted by it, and we checked in with them. And that's kind of how the ball started rolling. And then Christine sent out a formal invite and invited everyone.
I called. I'm remembering. I called the families by phone. Just had to get my head back there. So that's how that happened. Elizabeth, does that answer your question?
Was there any outreach to family and students? My assumption was directly impacted. My assumption was that it could be wrongfully, because you clarified this. families of students of color,
Mhm.
I assumed that you meant students and families of students who were on the bus. Was there any?
There were no students on the bus. No students of color on the bus when it happened.
No.
Sorry,
Right.
I'm not following you.
Students on the bus.
Oh, students on the bus.
On the bus.
Kate, we talked to some of the students that were on the bus that day.
Did you talk to their families?
Yep. So we sent out an email to the whole school, and I talked to, I think there's 34 kids on the bus. I went on the bus every day for a couple days. We sent Tracy on the bus for a couple days, and I've been checking in with the students on the bus one by one just to get their comfort levels. To be honest with you, a lot of them were unaware that it happened. And I even went back on the bus today just to give a reminder. Hey, if you're feeling uncomfortable about anything, if you have anything to report on the bus, these are the steps that you take. So it's kind of like an ongoing outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We did have a whole school assembly, and Tracy and Kate led that. We plan to continue those throughout the year. It's not just a one and done, but it'll continue to do that.
What was the nature of the assembly? What was the content?
So the content of the assembly was different processes. Well, one, it began with we're having these assemblies because we're having slurs on our bathroom walls and slurs on our buses and slurs in our hallways, and those are not okay. And here are different steps that we're taking to prevent. I went over the HHB process, and then Tracy took over and went over some education and some steps forward that we're taking in terms of smaller group instruction as grade levels, as forms, and outreach to students to join in, much like they did in middle school last year.
So that was a week and a half ago, soon after the incident. Maybe last week.
It was the Tuesday after our SU
meeting, yes.
Yeah.
So we're doing some restorative community building conversations with students, which Tracy's been instrumental, and Kate just meeting with the students who are really harmed, and also the students who were engaged in the incident. And tomorrow, I believe, we are bringing those students together to have a restorative conversation for those that will participate.
Elizabeth?
And Mary Gannon's been involved a lot too.
Yeah.
When you say students who have been harmed, does that include non-BIPOC students who were harmed?
Not for this conversation tomorrow.
Will it include students who are not BIPOC at some point? Because I think that this kind of event really harms students all across the board. And I think it's a mistake to not address all of the students in that way.
Yes, I mean, we can work on that. I mean, I think the goal for tomorrow is to have an opportunity to provide some healing and some community building, and a chance for students to share how they felt. But I see your point, Elizabeth, in including all students. We're starting with the students most harmed in this situation tomorrow, but we can certainly work on all students.
Amy?
Thank you. And just to kind of reiterate what Elizabeth was saying, that if there are slurs being said in the hallways and slurs being written in our bathroom stalls, and the kind of behavior that was on the bus that would lead students to approach the supervisory union board, I believe that it's the entire community, as in all of our towns that send kids to our school, I believe we've all been harmed. And that's all.
Elizabeth?
Thank you. I just want to add that if there were 0 students of color in the school, it's still damaging to the students in the school. They're not. It's not going to get better without addressing it with all of the students and addressing the harm done to all of the students.
So we address the education piece to the whole school, and we're starting here. We're kind of all in agreement, Mary, Christine, myself, Tracy, that it's best to start in small pockets. And then we're working on a whole school kind of unifying activity. And we actually have a planning meeting for that with some students tomorrow too. And that is not just students of color or students in a protected class.
When is that? When is the all
tomorrow
school?
at 2.
No, not the planning, but the event.
It's tentatively planned for Friday when we have our half day, but I don't know if you know, there's like sickness going around our entire building. So this is like our 3rd attempt at this planning meeting, but there's always someone out for either mono or strep or pneumonia or COVID.
Oh, wow.
But we're going on with the meeting tomorrow. I talked to one person who will be there and she said, carry on the meeting without me. Let's get going.
Do you happen to have any input from the Vasarn on this? But Vermont Students Anti-Racism Network?
I wish Tracy was here. I know that there's a couple things that she kind of took the lead on. I know she out to some different agencies, but I don't know for sure if that was one of them.
Okay, thanks.
I think my only question along these lines, and I appreciate the question, it's a good conversation. On the subject of restorative justice, because I know that's one of the tools that we kind of have in our toolbox to approach, when issues like this arise. Is the student body at large aware that that is something that they can seek out if somebody were to come from the student body, regardless of who they were? Is there a system in place that they could use to approach, administration, Tracy, you, anybody to initiate that kind of a process? I know there's the ticketing system has come up, but I don't know if that was one of the recourses. Yeah, and I know it's early days.
I mean, our hope is that we're going to train up a group of students to be able to lead some restorative practices within our school. That started in middle school last year. Tracy's working on getting that started in high school this year. So at this time, I would say if anybody wanted to talk about a situation and creating some restorative practice, they would likely go to Kate or reach out to Tracy. I mean, she's getting to know the students. And I think some would probably feel more comfortable than others, but I don't think there's another route to get to that yet.
Okay.
It's a goal for sure.
Christine, sorry to
butt in,
but the Student Anti-Racism or the Vasarn, Vermont Student Anti-Racism Network, is a really good resource for that because it's peer-to-peer.
Yeah, I know Tracy's been in touch with them. Last year, I think she mentioned them again this year. She's also, it's on her list. Vermont Student Anti-Racism. We have a whole checklist of things that we're working through.
Excellent.
So it is on there.
Annalise just posted in the chat. I'll just read it for anybody who's listening, that Tracy's working with the Greater Falls Restorative Practices Services to grow this throughout the SU. So thanks for citing that, Annalise.
Yep, that's who I believe she worked with last year as well.
It would probably, we can share our working document with the board via email. We kind of have like a working document with Tracy, myself, Tim, and Christine on it, I believe. And it's kind of like next steps. What we don't want this to be is a one-off. One and done, something happened, we're reactive to it. We want to keep the education going through all year long.
Absolutely.
Yep. Which is professional development for staff's ongoing. Tracy had a day in August with staff, or a half a day. She's got a full day in January, so she's working on planning that, which is exciting. I know she's also reached out and is working on, if people are interested, creating a safe space, a racial affinity space for our BIPOC students. I don't know if they've taken her up on that, but she is offering that. We are in the midst of updating some handbooks and creating an anti-slur policy that is in the hands of our legal counsel right now. So they're not done with it yet.
Elizabeth?
Sorry to, but are students going to be involved in the creating the anti-slur policy and updating the handbooks?
Yes,
And
they are.
who will be responsible for policing that? And what happens when the language gets shifted to euphemisms?
Who will be responsible for policing what? The creating of the handbook? The student group that does that, or?
No, who will be responsible for creating or for policing slurs? And what will happen when when students create euphemisms instead of official slurs?
Well, that's why it's in the lawyer's hands, and she specifically told us not to put a list of slurs because they would do the exact thing you're talking about right now. So the language is being very carefully crafted, so it would be able to take into account when students using one word in lieu of another, if that makes sense.
Yep. I urge you to get students involved in creating the policy, because I think it would be really healthy for them.
Kate, I think I heard you note that there are students involved in that. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Just like the dress code and everything, we bring them.
Okay.
Good.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for confirming that, Emily.
Okay. Thank you for your great questions and your support. It's been a difficult situation to work through. But I feel it felt very reactive, and this feels more proactive. So.
And just Elizabeth, before I call on you again, I just want to note in the slide that you have up right now, the numbers cited there, that is parts of the policy that have been engaged, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Or my interpretation of it anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So that I just wanted to make sure, that's demonstrating that the policy that we've looked at this level, reviewed and approved at the SU level, is being engaged as part of the response to incidents that have happened. All right, Elizabeth.
I just, no more questions. I just want to say that I'm really glad that we have Tracy. This is exactly why we need Tracy. And I hope that that she's able to really show what she can do, because she's really, I think, really excellent at her job.
Yeah.
Thanks.
She's been instrumental, and it is reassuring to have her help us walk through it. So. Agreed.
And I'll just reiterate. I mean, I also appreciate it. It's been a really rough few weeks, responding to this. It's not what you want to have happen in the rollout of the school year, where things, I think, especially this one, there was a lot of kind of just like positivity, being fully staffed and people coming back and being really what feels like the first really full post-COVID, knock on wood, year out. But I have been appreciative of how responsive the administration and you have been, Christine, just being aware of all of the work and the breadth and depth of work that's being done. Tracy's a big part of it, but I think, having this policy, having an administration and a staff and a faculty and really a student body and a culture that is being built and fostered in the school, that when things like this happen, which can be harmful and result necessarily in really uncomfortable conversations and kind of reckonings around this stuff, I feel confident that we're moving decisively in a direction where learning is being facilitated kind of in a global sense in the school community. So I really appreciate that. And as I've said every time we've talked this, anything that we at our governance level or just as community members and neighbors can do to help keep us
Thank you.
keep us in the loop. Kate.
I just wanted to give some unasked for feedback that I run into every time. So we all talk about restorative justice and we talk about with their schools, but when you've been harmed or your child's been harmed, that's the last thing people want right in the beginning. They get there, but in those first 48 hours, that
Mhm.
they want justice and they don't care about the restorative piece. And the language in the I don't know if it's in the policy or in the protocols, it says zero tolerance, right? But we haven't defined zero tolerance. So when I talk this through with Tracy, she's like, we don't tolerate it. We correct it, we educate it, we name it. But to parents whose child has been harmed, zero tolerance means I'm going to push them right forward to the school board to be expelled. So language around that would be real helpful.
Yeah.
And I think that I know that we're doing an annual review of this policy and related policies is something that's being taken up by the SU board. So I think that that's really good feedback for that space as we look at it and maybe think about fine tuning the language. So thank you for that, Kate.
Okay. We're going to get to that later. So my last slide is just to remind you, if you're interested, there is the VSBA conference coming up at the end of the month. And if you can make any part of it, just let Lori know and she can get you registered. And then when we get to the 5-year plan, I'll pull up that other slide.
Excellent.
Okay. And that concludes our report.
And it looks like Elizabeth had one last question here. Are any of these steps being taken in the middle school as well? And which steps exactly are you referring to, Elizabeth?
I was referring to any of the stuff on the penultimate slide.
So last year, the middle school actually took the lead on this because it was those bathrooms that they were having trouble with. So they're actually in a way, well, a lot of those kids came up to freshman year. They're actually in a way have the systems in place, and are slightly ahead of us in the high school.
Okay, thanks.
All right. You said that was the end of the administrative report?
That's the end of the administrative report.
All right. Thank you, Christine, and thanks to our lead learners for taking part in that as well. It's great to see all the stuff that the students are doing and hear a little bit of perspective too on things that are a little less fun to talk about, but I'm glad that we can debrief a little bit, even as it's still going on. Okay, so we are on to items for discussion. So number A, the first A, is school board member, high school credit community service with Kim Gogan. Kate, do you still have your hand raised for something, or is that
I think she just forgot to put it down.
Okay.
I forget it down, but since this is up for discussion, can I put out there that I know in the past we had talked about a junior or senior taking on this role. I think we had settled on like a junior, but I have a freshman who's interested in learning more information, and I'm kind of just looking for Grace to go ahead with that.
I mean, open the floor to folks. I have no issue with that. If there's a freshman who wants to be involved or just wants more information, I'd be happy to entertain that.
I think at this point in the game, we need to be open to anything.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Any other thoughts on that from the board?
I think we should try. Go ahead with it. If they're interested, we should foster that.
Absolutely. No, thanks for bringing that up, Kate. Yeah, sounds good. I know Kim couldn't join us tonight unless she's on the call now, but I think she had told me she wasn't going to be able to. But I will I believe I forwarded you the email that she sent, and if that didn't make it into the packet, I'll just make sure. Christine, were you on that as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I can forward that again to you and just make sure it makes it in after the meeting. But essentially, I reached out to Kim after our last meeting because as part of our conversation about getting some student, Windsor High School students on the board is whether they could get any kind of credit, like community service credit or educational credit. And Kim gave me a very comprehensive response. It turns out that both of those things are not only possible, but also fairly easy to do. And she has, I think, done both of them. So that's great news. I don't really see much in the way of barriers moving forward and really actively reaching out to students about the opportunity for being on the board. So we can offer the volunteer hours. That would just be a matter of, let's pull a little bit of the detail from this. It would, let's see. Yeah, there's a form for a school board member to sign at the end of the year. So they would just log whatever hours they did in meetings. Then at the end of the school year, we would confirm that they had actually contributed those hours and they could get the community service credit. And then the other option is the extended learning opportunity, which gets kind of rolled into a larger educational experience in ELO plan. And actually, there was one that Kim sent me from a few years ago. I want to say it was maybe 2019. Yeah, student engaged in learning more about education, particularly educational leadership, students considering a career as a teacher. So essentially some self-guided learning. If a student wanted to have a larger project, they could also have being a student board representative as part of that. So yeah, I don't believe we need to take any action on that per se. I'm pretty happy to work with our principals, with Kate. I can work with you on maybe getting together. I think we had talked last time about getting together and just I could talk directly to some students about that opportunity. Do we still want to do that?
Yeah, let me know when you're available. I'll make it happen.
Cool.
That 10:30 to 11:30 spot is the best time for accessing the most kids.
10:30 to 11:30? Awesome. I'm sure I can find some days where that works. I'll shoot you an email and we'll set that up.
And you want that email in the board packet?
Yeah, if we can just get Kim's email in the packet for this meeting. Because she gave a very concise and comprehensive answer to this. So if anybody wants to get the full rundown, that's good. Yep, so Kate, I'll connect with you after this and I'll find some days that I can come in and chat with students about the opportunity. The only other piece, and I guess Elizabeth, you might be able to speak to this because we have had a board mentor for our student members in the past, and I think we just want to make sure that's something that we continue doing. I don't know if you want to speak to how you structured that.
I mentored Hudson, and I just made sure that it was that all of the meetings were contextualized, so that he wasn't just attending a meeting; he really understood what it meant to the district and what the history of what we were discussing was. And I think it really helped him to dig in further. As we can see, he's dug far in, so that he could understand like what a policy process is, why it matters to students, and why student input is crucial. Like every step of the way.
Fantastic. Yeah. So it sounds like you did kind of a briefing and a bit of a debriefing on the meetings.
Yeah, I met with him once a week, actually.
Okay. It's good to know. I think that would be a good model to continue. So weekly meetings. Did you have like a standard amount of time that you met for or anything like that?
We met on Zoom for an hour.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I think that's just one thing that, when I communicate to students, when we have a student come on the board, I think that when we get to that point, maybe we can have a conversation about who would like to be the student mentor on our board. Nancy?
I also think that if we do get a student on the board, we should rework the agenda so that there's a definite student time and let them go. Because I think it's just too long and it's a lot that they may not be interested in. But they should know what we do, but it also should be relevant to them because we want to keep them.
Yeah.
And if they're thinking it's going to be 2.5 hours and they don't really know what's going on, I just want to keep them if we can.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hudson was a very special person and that most students can't do what he did.
Mm-hmm.
or don't want to do.
I hear what you're saying, and I understand maybe prioritizing the meetings and looking at it. I do want to say, though, being a student board member, I mean, it is, especially if we're offering volunteer hours or they're getting some kind of credit, I'd push back a little bit and say that part of that responsibility is attending, and whether it's necessarily interesting or immediately relevant or not, I think that's why you would do that brief and that debrief on it so that there's some context given. Given that we record all of these and we have minutes, I think I would be amenable to having some flexibility. I mean, because I know the students are incredibly busy, and sports and homework and all sorts of other parts of being a high school student come up. But I mean, at least I would hope that students, if they're ready to be a board member, are at least digesting the content of the meeting at some time, whether it's in real time or whether they're reviewing the meetings after and maybe doing like a written summary or something. I want to make sure that we're.
I totally agree with you. And I was hesitant to even bring it up, but if we continually have a problem finding anyone, I'd like to just arrange something so that we could have a student for most of the meeting, but I don't know. There's a lot of time that is not relevant. I don't know.
No,
I think you know what
I get what you're saying, yeah, and I think my thought on it is let's kind of keep the horse in front of the cart on it. Now that we have some information about how students can get volunteer hours or credit. I'm going to do some outreach with Kate and kind of more directly engage students and have a little bit more structured outreach about this, because the reality is we really haven't yet. It's been out there, but at the moment, beyond, I think, essentially principals having times in your busy day to say, hey, students, school board opportunity, or students watching these meetings, which I don't think happens very often, which I can't blame them for. There hasn't been any sort of like real outreach. So I can't really put it on the student experience of the meetings as to why we haven't had that much interest. Once we get a student who's involved, or maybe some students that are involved, I think that to incorporate what you're saying, I think that we can have that flexibility, but I think we need to work on getting the students in first before we sort of predefine those, what that looks like.
I'm fine with that.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Any other thoughts on that, or are we feeling good about the direction we're going?
Any direction is a good direction.
Awesome. Yeah, forward is usually good. All right. So I have some actions on that. I'll reach out to Kate. Next, we have school clerk update. And Elizabeth, I think you had the relevant information on that, and it's good news, if I recall.
It is good news. Amy Yates has wholeheartedly agreed to be the clerk, and she was going to reach out to Larry.
Excellent.
I don't know whether she already has or not, but she's all 2 thumbs up, way up.
Good. Excellent. So I think we just need to take a vote officially and say that we are electing her to be our district clerk, correct?
Yep.
Or approving her, I think is the right language. Okay. So I will take a motion to approve Amy Yates to be our district clerk for the 2024-2025 school year.
This is Amy. So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
She'll be great. Thank you. Thank you.
And just as a reminder, Amy Yates is the West Windsor town clerk, correct?
Yes.
So yeah, this is somebody who is enthusiastic to do it and also is falling within the guidelines that the state is giving us that ideally we would be having a town clerk serve this dual role.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. Just wanted to clarify that and make sure I was understanding it correctly myself. Okay. If there is no further discussion, then I will take a roll call vote. I'll start with the folks who are online. Elizabeth.
Aye.
Amy.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
Nancy.
Aye.
And I am an I as well. So, hey, we have a school clerk, Amy Yates. Fantastic, and thanks for doing the outreach on that too, Elizabeth. I know it took a while, but we made it there. So, and this is something that we'll just need to reapprove year over year, correct? Usually during organization when we're not figuring it out.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, and that was at 7:50. Cool. All right, next, we're gonna briefly continue our conversation about community outreach sessions and staff engagement. I know we had a really good chat about that at our last meeting, and I just wanted to, we were missing Elizabeth last time, so I want to make sure we had the full group in here before we found a path forward on it. To summarize, and feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm misremembering this, but I think we were pretty aligned around the events that we had, the topics that we had put out, so student performance, budget priorities, and then the school culture broadly supporting students' learning, well-being. It's all, from our retreat. I think, Bill, you had mentioned possibly engaging folks on early childhood education again as well, which I know we've done in the past. It's always relevant, so I'd be happy to add that to the list too. So we had a conversation at the last meeting, I think looking at how we were conceptualizing engagement, and what we wanted these events to look like, if we were really talking about events at all, or finding ways for the board to be present in proximity to other things where we could maybe set up space where we could engage with community in some different ways. Just having had a couple of years of setting up events, not having that much direct engagement, or even necessarily sort of after the fact, views, what have you. So where I recall we left off last time is that we were thinking of finding some school events for the rest of the school year, designating, 2 or 3 board members. I think up to 3 we're not at a quorum, and not that it would matter on this that much, but designating 2 or 3 board members to be around at those events, work with the administration, and just set up space, basically a table, put it out in some newsletters and say, hey, the board is going to be at, half an hour before the sports game or in proximity to this theater or music event or what other kind of student event, and say, we would like to hear your thoughts on this topic. We'll have some things that we're prepared to speak to that we've been working on the board level, but just have a little bit more focused, targeted engagement, without necessarily creating more standalone events that people are adding to their calendars. It seemed generally like folks were pretty happy with that as a plan. I get it all? That's where we landed.
I was unaware of having stuff prepared and stuff. I thought we were just going to be available.
I think primarily it's the way that I think of it is that it's really like to listen, to say, hey, it's budget season. Budget priority, I think, is a really good example for that, saying it's budget season. We would like to hear just from the community more directly what your budget priorities are. As far as having something prepared, I think it's just being able to have kind of some general information about like what the budget cycle looks like, what the process is, just so we can kind of keep folks, up on that information, but not having like, sitting people down and being like, all right, here's a slideshow, like in the lobby of the theater or anything like that. Maybe some light handouts, that kind of thing. But yeah, and Elizabeth, since you were the one person who was not here last time, I just want to get your input if you have any on that, or if you're feeling pretty good about that as a direction.
I feel good about that as a direction, and I'm realizing that I should change my vote on the minutes to abstain and not in favor. Sorry about that. But no, I think it all sounds very productive and good and focused.
Excellent. So I think that because that's largely scheduling, I don't think we really need to spend any more meeting time on it. We have our topics. So again, student performance, budget priorities, school culture, and everything written after that, and then early childhood ed. So I'm just going to bump budget priorities to the top of the list because we are going into budget season. I will work with folks online just to figure out who's available when, to set up that, some opportunities for folks to be at events and chat about budget with people, and we can develop again some simple handouts. I think I can probably work with Christine and Larry just to get some crib notes that we can show people.
Well, Larry's gonna have a whole budget book for you soon.
Can't wait. Genuinely can't wait. All right.
Pretty amazing.
All right. So, virtual outreach opportunities. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks all. Well, that was relatively quick there. From there, it's a good segue. So item C is our budget committee update.
One.
Oh, yeah.
Jen, have you had any?
I've had people who are interested but not committed.
And Tracy has one that's interested and not committed fully, correct?
Just waiting for more details.
Is it a community member or a staff?
Community?
Good, good.
I have people asking what day, because that makes a big difference for a lot of people. I don't know if that was some of the things people were getting at with you, but like what day of the week is it? Because
my understanding from the last meeting and talking to Larry is that there isn't. First, we're going to find the people, and then scheduling is going to be made based on availability. So there's no set day or specific time. It's just going to be who we have, and then I think Larry is going to work with folks to make, and the administrators to make sure that everybody can make it.
The SU budget committee is currently meeting on Friday mornings, and it's actually a really great time slot.
Yeah, 8:30 to 9:30.
Which budget committee is this?
SU.
SU? Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Got to get through that first before we start the locals.
Oh, yeah.
Getting there. So we have some interest. I think, I know Larry's working really hard on the SU budget stuff, as Elizabeth can attest to. He's doing a phenomenal job. I think once that gets finalized, his plan is to bring a draft budget to the October SU meeting.
Excellent.
Give a good month for individual boards to grapple, look it over, and hopefully approve it at the November meeting.
Sure.
And then he can really dig into the local budgets. So he'll start digging into November, and then probably we can start talking about, preliminary budget stuff in November.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, if I recall, it was I think it was like mid-November to mid-December, and like one, maybe two meetings. I mean, it's a pretty small in-person time commitment for whoever is. And it sounds like we have one Windsor community member and one West Windsor community member who are interested.
I've got a couple too that have been expressing interest for community members, but I've got a couple of staff.
Okay. Cool.
No, nice.
All right. I'm glad there's some interest there. That's great. All right. Anything else on budget committee or? Okay, fantastic. Moderator, I think this is where Christine has some good news
I
for us.
reached out to Kate, still sent from last year, and she has agreed to do it again. So she was pretty awesome, and we paid her a stipend, I think $100, and we should do that again. But she's offered to do it. I just need to give her dates and times.
Great. And did we approve that in a kind of continuing fashion the last time we did? I think that we just set that as the thing.
Yeah.
So we don't need to reapprove that. And do we need to vote on Kate as our moderator for this year? That's another one that I think got delayed.
I think we should. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I will take a motion to approve Kate Stilson to be our Mount Ascutney School District moderator at town meeting day.
Amy, so moved.
Second.
There you go.
I thought Amy was clarifying that it was Amy Stelter. Amy.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, I will take a roll call vote, starting with Nancy.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Amy.
Aye.
Elizabeth.
Aye.
And I am an I as well, so Kate Stilson is our moderator for this next year. I'm so glad that she wants to do it again. She is fantastic at
Yeah,
it.
she's very good.
All right, and that's at 8 p.m. Excellent. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have our ABS 5-year facilities plan that we're going to see some.
Yep, I'm gonna pull it up. I sent it out in an email today. Larry and Jim were updating it or going over it with me on Friday. Okay. Let me get my notes. Okay, so the top section of the spreadsheet is preventative maintenance. And so as you can see, the green is necessary. So it's ongoing and happens regularly. That's preventative maintenance. And that's most of the things on the preventative maintenance.
What about the blue there?
The blue is needed but can be deferred.
Okay.
So you can see, it's hard to see, I'm sorry. The bathrooms, partitions, upgrades, that's I think specific to ABS. If you scroll over ABSN.
Is that the ones that go all the way down?
They go most of the way. If you go all of the way, then you're gonna have to have an engineer come in and you're gonna probably have to sprinkle your buildings, which I don't think is a bad idea, but is costly.
You make it so kids can't
Climb under or over.
Right.
That's the goal. So they can't climb over or under. So that's something that we're actually, Jim said we're holding on because we're waiting for our PCB testing to be done before we really get into anything like that. We were scheduled for this past summer, but that's been delayed. And I think that's due to the state running out of money to cover the mitigation of PVCs. So that's, so the blue is needed but can be deferred. There's another item on that list, which is the plumbing, which was scheduled for 25-26, and that's also, we're waiting for the PVC testing.
Is that Windsor or
That
ABS?
is ABS.
Oh,
Plumbing
okay,
upgrades.
thanks.
Part of the
We're
bathroom
also trying to
upgrades.
create
Yeah.
a shower so we can be a shelter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
So the rest of the upgrades are just preventative maintenance, carpets, doors, electricals,
Roofing.
roofing. Well, that let me get to the next section, which is the capital projects.
Before we move on too much, Elizabeth, do you have a question for that top bit?
I do. Jennifer, you were just talking about adding a shower, and I wondered whether there was some kind of grant that we could get to cover that, if it's going to create the possibility of Albert Bridge becoming a shelter.
It's a great question, Elizabeth. I don't know. If you have ideas, send them my way.
I will look into it for you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And a quick question, Mike, does the shower have to be in building? Might, if we get a grant, might we be able to create an outside building that would have a bathroom facility, shower? Because I know any sort of inside space is limited.
Yeah.
And that might be able to be funded by the community through a grant versus the school district.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to the next section, which is the capital projects. And again, the green are done. And the yellow is pending PVC testing. So you can see here that some things, these are the things that have been done already. In 24-25, there aren't any capital projects scheduled. In 25-26, we've got the Albert Bridge School roof at $180,000. I don't know when he budgeted that, but I would anticipate that might go up every year. Materials.
Why is it yellow?
Because it's pending. That's this the code. That's pending the PVC testing. So,
okay.
Hoping to get that done before we do any major renovations. It doesn't make sense to do them prior. And then the white is in the works in plans, but hasn't been done yet. So the theater remodel, the Windsor roof, the south roof, which Jim's been repairing. I believe that's one he's been repairing. That's in 25, 26. In 26, 27 is the other Windsor roof, the west roof, and elementary playground asphalt. And then in the following year, it's time to redo the track.
Yep.
Which is beautiful. I was there for the football game, and it's just such a nice track. So we want to keep it up and running. So that's the 5-year. It's the Mount Ascutney School District 5-year plan. It's ABS and Windsor.
Will you go up to the those?
Yeah.
Because I don't see, yes, to see what it says at the end of the bottom 3. It starts with necessary. Okay.
Oh, yep.
Necessary but can be deferred to total. Okay.
And that's just the total.
I just didn't know
Yeah.
what.
That's Larry's key.
Yeah.
Amy?
Thank you. I was at an event over the summer in the theater, and it is very apparent that some of the seats are literally falling apart.
Yep.
And even before we were the Mount Ascutney School District, back when it was the Windsor School District and the West Windsor School District, etc., there had been plans, and there was even capital, part of our capital reserve that we voted on to replace a lot of the seating in our theater auditorium. And that has never happened. And when we have an event that involves that our community is invited to, and they come in and they start to sit in a seat and they notice that it's broken, and they look next to where they want to sit and that seat is also broken, that again, it's a reflection on our school. And just wondering if that could be part of the theater renovations. Thank you.
I have a question for Amy.
Yeah,
Amy, I see broken seats in the front. Do you see it in other places also?
I would have to go back in, but just, I believe, yes, I did.
Okay.
I'll put it on my list to check in.
And just a lot of the seats have been there since, well, most of them, if not all of them, it's the same seat since the building, since it was created. And they are starting to fall apart and have been for a few years.
And that was, when do you think that happened, Amy? The vote to replace those with capital reserve money?
The first time, I believe that was even before any work that we did with Act 46.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, I'll put it on my list to
Thank
check in.
Yep. Oh, do you see Annalise's? No, the seats were over 30 years old.
Yeah, they're approaching 30 years old, certainly. I think that theater was from 1997. But yeah, they're getting up there.
We could at least take them out. We could at least take the broken ones out.
Many of them have been removed, but I do know. I mean, Amy's not wrong. I've been to events there, and they need an overhaul for sure.
I think they're expensive.
No, they are. Yeah. I think that's I think that it's one of the many things.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it's one of the many things that we ended up having to pull back on this past budget cycle because of the situation that we've been facing.
Yeah, we did have something in there, didn't we?
Well, there was a theater.
There was a substantial
and
amount
the
of buildings
roof
and grounds.
yeah.
Yeah.
just kind of writ large that we pulled back on because
Yeah.
I mean, it's not ideal, but we could kick it out. But I mean, Amy's not wrong. I mean, it's not a good look. It's not particularly safe, and it reduces the capacity, the comfortable capacity of that room. So it's, I mean, it does need to be a priority. Elizabeth, and I know I apologize. I think I ask this every meeting that Buildings and Grounds comes up, but any news or anything on the possibility of state funding for Buildings and Grounds projects?
Not currently. Currently,
Okay.
all of the money has been used up, and people are really mad about the school. I can't remember which one, the elementary school that had to open in trailers because the money was all used up. But we'll see.
Yep. I mean, hey, hope springs eternal. If that materializes, then a lot of this becomes a lot more
manageable.
Possible.
Yeah.
But we'll keep at it. And then I'm sorry, Annalise had a comment here. You could open up, the front area. You could open up and make it an orchestra bit for the
You
time
could use
being.
some of those good
Chairs
seats
to
and replace the ones.
They're actually different chairs in the front.
Oh.
There's that front area is one kind of chair, and then there's a different model that goes up the back.
Oh.
I remember when they were brand new because I was at school there back then, and that was part of the design.
It's slanted, right? Isn't it?
And it's at a slant, so it'd be really hard. You would have to build it down stepwise to be able to just bring in folding chairs, and that probably I would imagine there are insurance reasons not to do that. I'm not an insurance expert, but my common sense tells me it might not be a good idea. But I don't know, maybe it works. All right. Any other questions, comments on the ABS and Windsor
So that should
Mount Ascutney School District 5-year facilities plan? Oh,
I forgot to mention, that was cross-checked with the Act 72 findings. When they did all the facilities reviews, the state came in, so Jim and Larry did cross-check what their findings were with ours, so that's,
Great. Elizabeth?
Thanks. Sorry. I just received a message saying that theater restoration grants are pretty easy to come by. So maybe that would be something that could be looked into.
Yeah.
Who looks into that?
well, I will say that the grant manager, which our part-time grant manager, Angie. Yeah, I need some power. Sorry.
No.
Is totally at max capacity. She's also our Title IX coordinator, and she is I will just say she doesn't have a lot of capacity to go after grants currently. So I think if they're out there, Jennifer, maybe we can look. I don't know.
Maybe
We can have like Larry's as the finance business facilities or something
I
like
mean,
that.
he wouldn't. He probably wouldn't apply for the grant. He would help manage the grant financial part of it. No, it's really Angie, but
writing grants is I took a class.
Yeah.
Found out that I didn't want to write grants, but it is
it's a lot of work.
An art. It's
it's a very specific skill set that few people have experience at and few people have the aptitude at.
I will throw this out there because I was just at a leadership summit around interprofessional continuing education last week, and this is one of those nice transferable things from that. AI is really good at helping with grant writing.
She's using that.
Yep.
I think when she's done managing ESSER, which will be another year, it'll open up a little bit of space for her to, she manages our title grants, our ESSER grants. There's a lot of grants that she's managing. That doesn't mean we can't go after a grant. We'd have to look at, see what the requirements are.
Yeah. The first step is to find them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sounds like Elizabeth has found some.
I'd love to write grants, but I don't have the capacity at the moment. I'm a good grant writer,
Oh my gosh.
but I just don't have the ability at the moment.
Well, if you send it my way, I will.
We can take a peek and see what it looks like.
Ah!
And I'm glad to hear that y'all are using the AI prompts for it, because that kind of blew my mind at how, rather
She's
than.
been using it.
Yeah. I mean, for that kind of form writing, it seems like it's a huge time saver if you have a large volume that need to be produced. So, yeah. Good. Thank you, Elizabeth. And thanks all for moving forward with that. All right. So that is the end of our discussion items. So we are on to 7, setting the next agenda.
Okay, well, I've got the admin report we had to move the student growth report to next month because our STAR system wasn't up and running as it should have been.
It was very slow this year.
Yeah, it took a little bit. Plus Wendy took over Brittany, and Brittany was, there was a learning curve. So we're good now.
Absolutely.
I had written on here from a long time ago, ABS Windsor intra-district, and I think I put it there so that when we're looking at the budget, if there's opportunities.
Yes.
So I believe that's why that's there. And Larry's started to look at like enrollment numbers and things like that. So we'll keep that there. Items for discussion. You want board onboarding, or you want to wait till December?
That can kick out one more month.
Okay.
I mean,
what about community engagement and outreach? Just report back?
Yeah, I think doing a report back, having that as a standing item, that we can just kind of do a quick, quick updates on that.
And then I've got budget. I don't know how much we'll have. We'll have the SU. We'll have looked at the SU budget, so we could maybe discuss that if necessary. Or
do we want to, since intra-district seems like it's pretty connected to that, do we want to just roll that into one item?
Yeah. I'll put it under items for discussion.
Yep.
That's all that's on here, Davis. I don't know if you have more on our work plan. That's all.
I think that's our work plan. So onboarding protocols, that's my feeling on that, unless somebody feels differently. I've gotten some resources from Christine, Elizabeth. I think you sent me some stuff, but I wanted to connect with you one more time, just make sure I had everything that you might have to give me, and then I just need to compile it and get it back to you. But admittedly, we just need to have that ready to go by town meeting day, so that, if and when we end up with new members, we'll have a plan ready to roll. But I don't, going through the fall and everything that comes up, I don't think we need to overcrowd our meetings with that in the short
Sorry,
term.
I'll get it sent to you. I apologize. I totally forgot about it.
I will be honest, it has not been on the top of my pile either. But it's something that we have time for, so I think it's okay to kick that out and look at it again maybe in December. No, I think we're on track with our board goals. The last thing really was the community engagement events. It sounds like we're all aligned on that. So we'll, like I said, I'll just do some scheduling via email and figuring that out. Yeah, sounds like a good agenda. And I know things have a way of popping up too.
They
So
sure do.
keeping it tight at this point. We'll add what we got to add if we got to add it.
Good.
All right. Sounds like we have our next agenda. So with that, we are on to 8, and we do have an executive session under VSA T11, section 313, and it is covering contracts.
Yes.
So I will take a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Contracts.
Second.
Bill Nancy.
I've got a question.
Yep.
Would it be possible to add on personnel matter?
It depends on what it is under the statute. I don't know that we can go in for personnel matter.
I actually have this on.
Yeah. Unless it's a disciplinary or dismissal action against a public office or employee. What do you got, Davis?
So I have the statute, a little quick guide right here. Contracts, labor relation agreements with employees, arbitration or mediation, grievances other than tax grievances, pending or probable civil litigation or prosecution. The public body may be a party. confidential attorney-client communications if made to provide legal services to the body. Yeah, personnel, I think, I don't know if that does
I
fall.
mean, we used to always go in under that rationale, and then when I was at the training, I think last year or 2 years ago, it was not really supposed to be going into executive session for
I mean, I
personnel
think
issues.
we can go with that. Is this something?
Unless it's disciplinary. Disciplinary or dismissal action against a public officer or employee.
Well, I guess the question is, does disciplinary include talking about potential discipline?
I think the issue that we're dealing with here is that I'm not particularly comfortable with going into executive session if administration has not been notified of this issue. So we have to follow the staff protocol within the contract that any staff complaints goes to the staff member. If that's not dealt with, then it must then go to the immediate supervisor. And if that isn't satisfactory, then it goes to the superintendent. So has this staff complaint gone through that process?
It has, but it was a year ago, and I don't know whether it was addressed.
So my suggestion is for you to ask Christine prior to a school board meeting. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And Christine, my question for you while we're in public session is, I know this isn't related to voting on going into executive session, but I want to ask it before we go into executive session.
Okay.
When do you conduct evaluations?
Of the people that I need to evaluate?
Yep.
I do, they're on a cycle. So it's a formative year and a summative year. So it's every 2 years, everybody gets evaluated.
All right.
Yep.
And it goes throughout the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Okay. I'll talk about that with you offline. Thanks.
Excellent. All right. If there is no more discussion about the executive session prior to entering it, we are going to enter into executive session, and that is, just to be clear, 1 VSA 313A, and that is 1, which is topics, contracts is under that one.
Okay.
So we are entering into executive session.
Let me stop the recording.
There we go.
There we go.
All right. Yeah, we didn't vote to enter executive session. So we are going to vote before we enter the executive session, starting with Nancy. How do you vote?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So now we are entering into executive session. Thank you for that reminder.
Let me stop the recording.
Welcome.
All right. So concludes our executive session. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Second. All right. And we can do a voice vote to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, I think we're all in favor. So we are.